They said my daughter's wheelchair ramp was an eyesore that destroyed curb appeal, then slapped a $250 daily fine on my porch like it was a parking ticket. But when HOA President Janice Langford found out exactly who I was and what I did for a living, her perfectly Botoxed smile cracked faster than cheap foundation in July heat. What happened next didn't just save our ramp. It torched her whole little kingdom of beige tyranny and left the entire Serenity Grove estate's board scrambling like roaches when the lights flip on. Let me take you back to that sticky Tuesday morning in our cookie-cutter slice of American suburbia. Serenity Grove Estates, where every lawn is mowed to military precision, every mailbox matches the approved taupe whisper shade, and heaven forbid you hang Christmas lights past January 3rd. I was sipping coffee on the porch when Janice's white SUV rolled up like a funeral procession. She stepped out in her signature beige pantsuit, clipboard in one manicured hand, fake sympathy smile glued on. My 14-year-old daughter Lily was already outside, wheels humming along the gentle slope I'd poured myself after the crash that took her mom and put rods in Lily's spine. Ethan Brooks, Janice cooed, voice dripping honey over broken glass. I'm afraid this artistic installation violates Section 4.2 of our architectural guidelines. It simply doesn't match the neighborhood aesthetic. She tapped the ramp with one pointed heel like it was dog poop on her designer shoe. I didn't raise my voice. I never do at first. That artistic installation is how my daughter gets to breathe fresh air without begging for help every single day. ADA compliant. Documented. You approved the permit 3 months ago. Her laugh tinkled like cheap wind chimes. Oh honey, we approve a lot of things before we realize the visual impact. Property values, Ethan. We're all about protecting property values. She leaned in like we were sharing secrets. Be a team player. Tear it out. We'll even help you plant some nice boxwoods to hide the inconvenience. Behind the screen door, I caught Lily's reflection. She was gripping the armrest so tight her knuckles went white. That was the moment something in me shifted from polite neighbor to silent predator. Because I wasn't just some grieving widower with a disabled kid. I was Ethan Brooks, senior investigator for the State Fair Housing Division, the guy who spent 10 years burying HOA boards exactly like hers for discrimination. They'd smeared me 2 years ago for questioning fees and called me the neighborhood troublemaker. I let it slide then. Not this time. Janice left the citation fluttering on the ramp like a victory flag. I watched her SUV glide away, perfect smile never slipping. But I'd already started recording the moment her heel touched my property. First piece of the puzzle. That night Lily wheeled out to the porch again. Sea glass mosaics I pressed into the concrete glowing soft blue under the string lights. Dad, am I making us lose the house? Her voice was so small it gutted me. I knelt beside her chair. No, kiddo. This ramp stays. And so do we. Inside, I opened my laptop and started the file I'd eventually call Operation Beige Apocalypse. Every absurd HOA rule, every past fine they'd issued against veterans, single moms, anyone who didn't fit their step-forward vision. I knew the playbook. I'd written parts of the federal playbook. 3 days later, the daily fine started. $250 a day taped to our mailbox like love notes from hell. Neighbors who used to wave at Lily now crossed the street like we carried the plague. Janice made sure of that. At the monthly board meeting, she turned the community center into her personal theater. Projector blazing my address in giant red letters. Non-compliant structure threatening neighborhood harmony. Friends, she sighed, hand over her heart like she was auditioning for community theater. If we allow one exception, soon we'll have rainbow fences, satellite dishes the size of trampolines, and God forbid, actual personality. A few sheep nodded. One woman actually clapped. I sat in the back row, recording on my phone tucked in my shirt pocket. When she called me up, I stood slow, letting the room feel the weight. Janice, you're not enforcing rules. You're enforcing fear. My daughter's ramp complies with federal law. You're not protecting property values. You're discriminating against a protected class. And I've got the case law that proves it. Her eyes narrowed just enough for the Botox to fight back. That sounds like a threat, Mr. Brooks. I smiled for the first time in weeks. No, Janice. That's a promise. The murmurs started then. Small cracks in her perfect little empire. But Janice wasn't done. She never was. By the next morning, another laminated notice greeted me, now claiming the ramp blocked emergency egress and posed a safety hazard to first responders. Black humor at its finest, the same woman who once fined Mrs. Patel for having a wheelchair-accessible van because it clashed with the driveway pavers was suddenly concerned about safety. I didn't yell. I documented. Every notice photographed, time-stamped, filed. Lily watched me from the porch, sketching the ramp in her notebook the way other kids draw superheroes. "It's our runway to the world," she'd labeled the drawing. I taped it above my desk like a battle flag. That's when Victor Kane showed up at my door at 6 a.m., looking like he hadn't slept since the Clinton administration. Victor, quiet accountant, board member who always voted yes until now. He kept glancing over his shoulder like Janice had drones. "I shouldn't be here," he whispered, handing me a flash drive. "But I can't watch her do this again. 2 years ago, she forced the Millers out because their son needed a handrail. Called it visual pollution. Their son was 8. His voice cracked. My wife died last year. She would have needed something like Lily's ramp. I'm done being her yes man." I didn't thank him. I just nodded. Inside that drive were emails, Janice calling disabled accommodations, pity projects, joking about crying parents at meetings, even floating the idea of reporting me to child services for unsafe home modifications. Blackmail dressed up as governance. I spent the next week building the case the way I'd built dozens for the state. Photos of Lily struggling before the ramp. Medical records. The original permit Janice herself had signed. Secret audio of her mocking Lily's chair in the parking lot after a meeting. And the kicker, the public easement filing proving half the ramp sat on township land, not HOA property. She'd been fining me for something she had zero legal right to touch. Meanwhile, Janice escalated like a cartoon villain who'd run out of ideas. Anonymous notes in my mailbox. "Think of your daughter's future. Move before we make you." Community email blast about certain homeowners weaponizing federal agencies. She even tried to get the neighborhood Facebook group to vote on whether Lily's ramp was spiritually depressing. The comments were gold. Half the residents finally waking up, the other half still terrified of her wrath. Lily caught me reading one of the notes. "They hate me, don't they?" I pulled her into a hug. "They're scared of her." Big difference. I filed the formal HUD complaint that night. Title II ADA violation. Pattern of discriminatory enforcement. Retaliation against a minor. By morning, I had the intake confirmation. The machine was moving. Janice felt it. Her next move was classic. She zip-tied a new notice to our mailbox claiming the ramp was now a fire hazard and threatening to have it removed by contractors at my expense. I watched from the window as she personally supervised 2 guys with jackhammers pull up in a truck. That's when I stepped outside, phone recording, HUD case number printed on a sheet of paper I held up like a shield. "Janice, you touched that ramp and you're looking at federal obstruction charges. The investigation is active. Your board is already named." Her face went the color of old oatmeal. The contractors froze. One actually whispered, "Lady, we're not getting involved in federal stuff." They packed up and left her standing there alone, clipboard trembling. For the first time, she looked small. But small cornered animals bite hardest. The public review hearing was scheduled for Friday at the clubhouse. Janice sent a community-wide email calling it a routine compliance discussion, like we were debating paint colors. I brought Lily. She wheeled right up front, sea glass ramp glowing behind her like a victory path. The folding chairs filled fast. More people than I'd ever seen at a board meeting. Victor sat in the front row now, no longer hiding. HUD investigator Dr. Ramirez and 2 state officials set up at the head table. Microphones on. Cameras rolling. Janice took her throne in the president's chair, beige suit pressed, smile nailed on. Dr. Ramirez didn't waste time. "MS. Langford, we have documented 37 instances of selective enforcement against disability accommodations in the last 4 years. Care to explain why every single one involved families with children or veterans?" Janice's voice stayed syrupy. "We simply maintain standards. Everyone is treated equally." I stood. Except when standards mean ripping freedom from a 14-year-old girl who already lost her mother. I laid out the binder page by page, emails, recordings, the easement proof, Victor's flash drive contents projected on the big screen. The room went dead quiet when Janice's own voice played. These people think their sob stories give them a free pass to ruin our aesthetic. Gasps. Phones came out. Someone in the back actually booed. Janice's Botox couldn't hide the panic. She tried the classic move, tears. I was only trying to protect everyone's investment. Victor stood. You were protecting your ego. I resign effective immediately and move to remove you as president. The vote was brutal. 89% in favor of her removal. She sat there while the gavel fell, face frozen in that perfect realtor smile, while her empire crumbled around her. 2 weeks later, the new board, Victor as interim president, voided every fine, passed permanent ADA protections, and even renamed the path Lily's Way. They planted wildflowers along the edges without asking. Lily's drawings now hang framed in the community center. Janice sold her house in record time. Last I saw her, she was packing boxes into a U-Haul, beige suit replaced by sweatpants. No clipboard. No smile. Just a woman who finally learned some rules can't be bullied. I watched Lily race down the ramp at full speed, wheels humming over sea glass that caught the sun like tiny stars. She didn't need me to push anymore. She never really had. So here's the question I want you to answer honestly in the comments. Was Janice Langford wrong for enforcing the rules, or was I the real villain for using my job and federal law to protect my daughter? Yes or no? Tell me which side you're on. Because the next time an HOA Karen comes for your family, you might be the one holding the binder. Subscribe if you want more stories where the little guy finally wins. Drop your own HOA horror stories below. I read every single one. And remember, sometimes the most dangerous person in the neighborhood isn't the one breaking the rules. It's the one who knows exactly how to use them. See you in the next one.